Hello, welcome back to my channel. Yes, I officially got a microphone and I am sorry. I'm just so excited because I feel like having this microphone distracts me from using my hands too much, and I'm trying not to use my hands so much in videos. So this is just my Rode mic. It's just an Amazon microphone, in case you were wondering, that's hooked up to my camera. But either way, I'm super excited to get into today's video, which is all of the books that I read in January and February. I did not do a reading wrap up for January or February, so I thought let's combine them together and bring you a summary of all of the books that I read this past year. Not this past year, these last 2 months. Holy cow. Time is flying. So we are going to start off strong with the first book that I read, which was Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. It has 3.82 stars on Fable, but I gave it 5 stars just because I loved the female main character so much. She was so witty, so relatable, so funny. Everything about her just screamed relatability, and I feel like Sophie Kinsella has really opened me up to this area of rom-com that I just love so much, and it is the female characters just being so witty and so just natural with their wit. The female main character, she was just such a good friend, and then also her 2 roommates, they just made me laugh. Like, one of her roommates, she was hiding that she was doing this dancing thing, and she was a lawyer, and so like the whole time you're like, what the F is she doing, right? Like, creating the suspense. And then you have the other roommate who essentially is like this nepo baby, is all I could say, and she just like goes psycho all throughout the book, and it really is such a good laugh, and it wraps up in such a beautiful and fun way. So if you need like a feel-good read, that definitely is a book I highly recommend. Again, I rated this one 5 stars and I just loved it. I couldn't put it down, finished it, ate it up in 24 hours. The next book that I read was Evie Drake Starts Over, and this story is really good. I think it's a traditional literary fiction, or it's just like a fiction book. I don't really know if it's romance, but it's about this widow Evie kind of learning about her life after her husband passes away, and you go through these different flashbacks and kind of seeing how she is grieving the fact that she's not grieving that he's gone, and how their love like drifted so far apart, and then kind of going back and questioning whether or not she really even loved him in the beginning. And then you get this side plot story of her falling in love with somebody else and then choosing herself in the end, and kind of realizing, I don't know, what she wanted out of life, finally chasing her own dreams, and just things like that. And that for me, I think, is what kind of made it a slow story. I felt like it was a little bit all over the place, even though I feel like it had really great moments at times. I do think that the story was just really slow, and that is definitely a book that I'm not sure that I would pick up again. But either way, I believe I rated that one like 3 or 3.5 stars. I hate giving authors low ratings. I feel so terrible. The next one I read was Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. This was a blind date with a book that I bought on Etsy. It was a trope that I honestly never ever would have picked up at the bookstore or in the Kindle store on my own. I'm not a billionaire love story kind of girl, and I'm definitely not a single dad love story kind of girl. Both of those tropes are just not my go-to. But after about 72 hours, I finished that thick old book, and I really enjoyed the character development of it all, and I'm actually interested in reading the next book that comes out into that interconnected series. And so I was very surprised by that book, and I would definitely give it like a 4.75 stars. There is quite a bit of trigger warnings in that book, so beware. There were moments I had to skip over just because it was a little intense for me. But overall, like, the character growth of both the female main character and the male main character were really great, and I loved seeing their interconnected, I guess, relationships. I didn't read the first book, that's at number 2, but you don't have to really read number 1 to read number 2, but it really goes into depth on 2 other characters that come from the previous book, and you would probably get their conversations a little bit better. But again, it didn't take away from the reading of the book. I took away 0.25 stars because I felt like at times there were things that went into detail that didn't need to go in detail. It was a very private moment with the male main character that I was like, I don't think we needed that moment in the book. If you've read the book, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you can comment and I'll message you about it. But it just felt like some of those moments weren't really needed and kind of took away from the actual story. I'm somebody who loves like a good love story, words of affirmation, action, the things that you do. And I think that this book really helped me kind of dip a toe into that billionaire single dad book series. Again, I don't know if I would pick that type of book up on my own, but if you have one that is a 5-star read, please leave it in the comments below. The next book that I read was The Wrath and the Dawn. It is a story inspired by 1001 Nights. And this book is a dawn. Every dawn brings horror to a different family in a land ruled by a killer. Khalid, the 18-year-old caliph of Khorasan, takes a new bride each night only to have her executed at sunrise. So it is a terrible surprise when 16-year-old Shahrazad volunteers to marry Khalid. But she does so with a clever plan to stay alive and exact revenge on the caliph for the murder of her best friend and countless other girls. Shahzi's wit and will get her through to the dawn that no others have seen, but with a catch. She may be falling in love with the murderer. So this one I rated 4 stars because I felt like it was really good, but again, it was a retelling of 1001 Nights, and maybe I'm unfairly taking away stars because of that, but I wanted to have like a little bit more of twists and turns, and I feel like it followed a very typical fantasy story structure, and I wanted something new and exciting when reading this book. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend to young adults, younger girls who are maybe wanting to get into fantasy. It is definitely a really good book. It's just not a 5-star read for me. Moving on to the next book that I read, which was the first book of the Bridge Kingdom series. I want to scream at how this ended. Oh my gosh. Aaron is captured. The bridge has been taken. Like, this book really took me through such an emotional roller coaster. And I get it. And it's because that Lara, is it Lara or Laura? I'm going to say Laura. Laura, her whole life was isolated from the world, her and her sisters, right? And so that's all she knew. And so I try to remind myself that, whereas Aaron was exposed to so much, island hop under his little disguises and all these things, and his mother had such a plan for the future to bring the people together, and he really was trying to fulfill that from his mother. So it really was such a different and beautiful, I guess, enemies to lovers, because I don't even want to call it fantasy, just like enemies to lovers book that I really fell in love with, but the ending was so hard for me to read. And I'm only on chapter 3 of The Traitor Queen, but I feel like I'm having such a hard time because I want Lara to be redeemable, but I feel like I also feel for Aaron in a sense that, like, how can you move on after something like that? Either way, I rated that 4.75 stars. It was so good, and I loved the fact that she was to like infiltrate the kingdom and all of these different ways that she learned to seduce and bring the kingdom down, and she brought the kingdom down. She brought it down. But also seeing the gentleness of Aaron. Oh my god, and his grandma was too funny. She was like, I know you, girl. I know you. I see you. I see you. Like, she knew from the start. That was definitely a really great read for me. Then I finally, after so many years of the book being out, I finally read Fourth Wing, and wow, what a joyous, crazy ride that was. First of all, my sweet baby Liam. I don't think I'm ever going to recover from the death of my sweet baby Liam. 2, her brothers are alive. What? Also, 3, she gonna piss me off. And I say it because I'm a little bit into Iron Flame, the second book, and I had to close it. Just like I had to close The Traitor Queen. I think, you know what it is? I get so emotionally invested into books. Like, I become the person that's like there looking through like a third party lens. I'm not here, I'm there. And I'm really trying to understand Violet a little bit more, but her privilege is really like irking me, you know, like you know. But either way, the first book was so good. There was so much suspense, so much action, so many things happening. I did love Violet's character growth. Xaden Ryerson, yeah, I like him too. But my sweet baby Liam, he was my favorite. But I do love all the character development throughout it. Rhiannon, that's my girl. And just everything about that book was so beautifully written. A new magical world that I was being kind of thrown into, especially because from what I see, the rest of the majors in the college are not technically magical. So it's very interesting. The Inheritance Games is the next book that I read. It was super predictable. If you go back and watch that reading vlog, you can see that I had said within the first few minutes of reading the book, I have a feeling that this whole book is going to be tied to the man that she plays chess with. It just felt so obvious, but I get it. Again, it was a young adult book, but it was such a fun book to read, and I felt like it was such a palate cleanser from reading some books that felt slow or heavy. Like, it really was something that was like, ooh, I want to solve this next mystery, the next clue, the next thing. And I ended up, as you can see, I'm in the middle of a lot of different books. I ended up listening to the next book, which I think is The Hawthorne Legacy. And I'm only a few chapters into listening to it because I listen to it when I'm at work in the office. And even then, like, sometimes I'm like typing and then I'm like I'm forgetting that I'm at work, not realizing that I need to stay focused. So I'll have to turn it off because I'll get so into like what is kind of happening next. I'm at the part in that book where they're at the like ski in, ski out lodge where they find out the grandfather said, "You're my true north." I think that was Shazara. "You're my true north." And they're trying to figure out what that clue even means. And I want to say that the ski instructor was Nash's dad. So we find out who Grayson's dad is, and now we found out who Nash's dad is. So now we're waiting on Jameson and the baby. I can't think of his name. The next book that I read was Evocation. It has like a lot of magic and tarot, and it's more of like a realistic, magical fantasy type book. But once you start adding in an exorcism, listen, I watched the Hallmark Channel. I got so scared. I literally have been trying to watch the Vampire Diaries series, but I've barely gotten through season 1 because I either have to like stop watching or skip through or watch when it's daylight because I'm scared. I'm a chicken butt. I'm scared. So that book made me scared, so I can't even read it. But look up the description of the book, and I feel like if you're somebody who's into the horror genre with a little bit of magic, if you don't mind some demons and some possession, go for it. The next book that I read was Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. And I believe that this is being made into a TV series. And it's definitely like a cute little young adult book. Again, I feel like I catch myself reading young adult books and I really just need to move on from them due to the fact that I think I get really bored or I get really stuck in ruts with these books, or they put me into reading slumps just because I feel like as a girly in her late 20s, I can no longer relate to some of these 16, because she was like 16 in the book. She was a sophomore in high school. So 15, 16-year-old characters where I'm like, girl, just cut the attitude, you know, where I'm in such a different place in my life that I feel like I fall into these slumps because I can no longer relate to the characters. So I didn't give that one a rating either, honestly, due to the fact that it was my own fault for picking up a book where I felt like maybe I shouldn't have, and I should really be sticking with more fiction that's geared towards a little bit of an older audience. Otherwise, I am currently reading Our Infinite Fates, which is a new book. They've loved each other in like every lifetime, but they also kill each other in each one. And I know you're like, Dominica, aren't you scared of that? Yes, but I'm also intrigued. So I'm just gonna skip those pages. And then I have 2 ARC books that I actually have to finish before April 1st. And so if you want to read the ARC books with me, I know that she has those books currently on Kindle Unlimited. So I am trying to finish those up right now. And those are the Concealed and the Captured. Both are new fantasy books that are coming out very soon. I wanna say at the end of this month. And so far I am absolutely loving them. They are definitely a younger character, where the female main character is, again, that like teenager, late teens. I want to say she's like 18. So far, so good. As you can see as well, I have many other books that I need to actually just finish. But if you have any book suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments. And thank you so much for watching my first reading wrap up of 2025. And of course, I will see you in the next video. Bye!